Hello children, in this class we are going to start chapter number 10, The Lost Pumpkin. In this video I will cover the two chapters, chapter 10 and 11. Chapter 11 is the second part of The Lost Pumpkin. So I will cover the whole story in this video. Let's see the video, see the story.
The Lost Pumpkin.
Help! Help! He has robbed us! The thief!
A loud voice woke up Soumya. Rubbing her eyes, she jumped out of bed and ran to the window. In the kitchen garden below, she could see her grandfather angrily waving his walking stick. Soumya ran down the stairs with her brother Rohit. Dadaji stood near a bed of vegetables. His face was red with anger.
What happened, Dadaji?
Unable to speak, Dadaji pointed his stick to a spot. Soumya looked, then looked again, and screamed.
Oh no, it's gone!
Rohit, still confused, asked,
What's gone?
My pumpkin! My precious pumpkin!
cried Dadaji. By this time, a crowd had collected at the scene. The gardener was in tears. His son, Paltu, looked sad. The milkman was curious to know what had happened. And the washerwoman nodded wisely.
I saw him jump over the wall.
She said,
Nonsense! He came from the other side. I saw him.
Why didn't you catch him then?
asked Rohit. Just then, Soumya squealed.
A footprint. Look.
Sure enough, there was a large footprint near the pumpkin plant, said Rohit thoughtfully.
Now, who has such big feet? Of course, Mr. Kapoor's gardener.
I knew Kapoor was behind this. Always after my pumpkins. Come on, let's get him.
Roared Dadaji.
At first we saw a old man, and he is the Dadaji of Soumya. And Rohit. Dadaji roared in anger that something is stolen, and by the voice Soumya come to the garden. They found that the pumpkin that Dadaji grow in the kitchen garden is stolen, and Dadaji was very angry about this. And then small crowd collected around them, and they were tried to find out who stole the pumpkin. Soumya noticed some big footprint near the pumpkin plant, and Rohit thought for some time, and he sure about that it was Kapoor's gardener. And by hearing this, Dadaji was very angry.
Roared Dadaji. It took the children some time to calm their excited grandfather. They felt sorry for him because they knew how he felt about his pumpkins, especially the one that was stolen. You see, for the last 15 years, Dadaji had been winning the local vegetable contest and walking away with the first prize. His pumpkin was always the best. No other vegetable could match it. This year's pumpkin was huge, but now it was gone. Of course, Mr. Kapoor was the thief. He had challenged Dadaji, saying he would grow a better pumpkin and win the prize. Many a time he had come looking around with the excuse of tasting Granny's pumpkin halwa.
Better than Matru halwais.
He always said. Now Soumya tried to reason with her grandfather.
Dadaji, we cannot just march into Mr. Kapoor's house and call him a thief. Maybe he hasn't taken the pumpkin.
I know he has.
Said Dadaji.
I have an idea.
Said Rohit.
Let's pretend to visit him, Dadaji. While you speak to him, Soumya and I will look around.
Wow, Rohit, this is your first great idea of the year.
Teased Soumya. So off they went to Mr. Kapoor's house. He and Dadaji soon began to argue about their vegetable gardens. The children quickly slipped away to look around Mr. Kapoor's garden. They looked everywhere, but there was no sign of the pumpkin.
Where could it be?
Wondered Soumya.
In the house?
Look,
Whispered Rohit.
that little shed. It must be in there.
However, all that they found were bags of manure, some flower pots, and garden tools.
What are you doing here?
A voice roared behind them. It was Mr. Kapoor's gardener.
Nothing.
Said Soumya.
Our pumpkin.
Said Rohit.
Where is it?
Your pumpkin? At first the man looked puzzled. Then he understood what the children meant. He ran into the house, shouting,
Sir, Mr. Kapoor, these children, they say we have stolen.
You can guess what.
Soumya and Rohit make calm Dadaji, and they felt sorry for him because for 15 years Dadaji had been winning the local vegetable contest and none would stand before him. রোহিত আর সোমিয়া দাদাজিকে একটু শান্ত করলো এবং তারা দাদাজির জন্য তাদের দুঃখ হচ্ছিল, তার কারণ দাদাজি শেষ 15 বছর এই ভেজিটেবল কন্টেস্টটা জিতে আসছিল। And Dadaji's neighbor Mr. Kapoor challenged him that he would grow better pumpkin than Dadaji, and sometimes he came to Dadaji's house to check how big the pumpkin became. দাদাজির নেইবার মিস্টার কাপুর মাঝে মাঝেই তাদের বাড়ি আসতেন যে পাম্পকিনটা কতটা বড় হয়েছে দেখার জন্য। They know that Mr. Kapoor was the thief, but they cannot just go to Mr. Kapoor and blame him. So Rohit got an idea. They go to Mr. Kapoor's house for just a normal visit, and when Dadaji and Mr. Kapoor argued for their garden, they checked the other part of the house, but they do not find anything. তারা জানতো যে মিস্টার কাপুর পাম্পকিনটা চুরি করেছে, কিন্তু তারা সরাসরি গিয়ে মিস্টার কাপুরকে দোষ দিতে পারে না। তাই একটা তারা আইডিয়া বার করলো। কি করলো তারা মিস্টার কাপুরের বাড়ি নর্মাল ভিজিটের জন্য গেল, এবং যখন দাদাজি এবং মিস্টার কাপুর তাদের বাগান নিয়ে কথা বলতে লাগলেন, তখন সৌম্যা অ্যান্ড রোহিত বাড়ির অন্য জায়গাগুলো খুঁজতে লাগলো, কিন্তু তারা কিচ্ছু পেল না। But then Mr. Kapoor's gardener caught them, and at last he understood that they blame that Mr. Kapoor stole the pumpkin. So she go to Mr. Kapoor and told him.
Mr. Kapoor turned red and purple with anger. The children did not know what to say, and Dadaji was now very worried. They returned home feeling sad. Dadaji went into his room. It was already noon, and the children were hungry as they had not eaten anything since morning.
Let's go to Matru Halwai's shop,
Said Rohit.
Yes, hot samosas and halwa.
Agreed Soumya, and off they went on Rohit's bicycle. Matru welcomed them. He was very proud to be known as the best halwai in town. Now, while the children were eating, two boys appeared carrying a huge bundle.
Shall we begin work on this?
They asked Matru. Matru suddenly turned pale and scolded them.
You fools! Why did you bring this here? Take it home at once.
As the boys turned to go, the bundle slipped and opened, and out rolled a pumpkin. Rohit and Soumya looked in horror. It was their pumpkin, with their black cross mark on it.
Stop!
Cried the children, but the boys ran into Matru's kitchen.
After hearing that, Mr. Kapoor was very angry, and they come home. And Dadaji sat on his room, and it was afternoon, and Dadaji and they did not eat anything, and they were very hungry. So they decided to go to Matru Halwai's shop to eat hot samosas and halwa. এটা শুনে মিস্টার কাপুর খুবই রেগে গেলেন এবং দাদাজি সৌম্য এবং রোহিত বাড়ি চলে এলো। দাদাজি তার ঘরে বসে থাকলেন এবং যেহেতু এটা দুপুর হয়ে গেছিল, তাই তাদের খুব খিদে লেগেছিল। তারা তাই ডিসাইড করলো যে মাথরু হালওয়াই এর দোকানে যাবে এবং সেখানে গরম সামোসা মানে সিঙ্গাড়া, গরম সামোসা খাবে এবং তার সঙ্গে কিছু হালওয়া খাবে। While they eating, two boys came to Matru and asked him, shall they begin to work on this? But seeing that Matru was terrified and scolded them, and while they are going, the bundle slipped from their hand and they saw that a pumpkin outrolled from the bundle, and it surely their pumpkin with cross mark in the pumpkin. They trying to stop them, but the boys ran into Matru's kitchen.
Into Matru's kitchen. By now, it was clear that the thief was Matru. Wasn't he famous for his pumpkin halwa, the best in town? Matru tried to explain, but the children ran after the boys. They went skipping over laddus and barfis till they reached the back door. The boys were trying to run away with the pumpkin in a cycle rickshaw. Rohit quickly hopped onto his bicycle with Soumya behind him and raced through the traffic. Nearing the rickshaw, Soumya caught hold of the handlebar and shouted,
Stop, stop, or I'll call the police.
This frightened the rickshaw puller, who stopped, but the boys ran away. Rohit quickly caught the pumpkin just as it was about to fall to the ground. Then, leaving the bicycle, he got onto the rickshaw. Followed by Soumya on the bicycle, they returned home. Dadaji was very happy to see his pumpkin. They were just in time for the vegetable contest, where, of course, their pumpkin won the first prize. On the way back home, the children told their grandfather the whole story. That evening, they had a visitor, Matru.
Please forgive me, sir.
He said, bowing his head before Dadaji.
Such a beautiful pumpkin. You see, sir, my daughter is getting married. I wanted to make the best halwa for the wedding feast.
If you had only asked me, I would have given it to you.
Dadaji told him firmly. Then he smiled.
You can still have it, but on one condition.
As the children held their breath, he said,
The halwa should be as nice as my pumpkin.
The boys got into a rickshaw and tried to escape. But Rohit hopped into his bicycle and followed them. সেই ছেলেগুলো একটা সাইকেল রিক্সাতে করে পালানোর চেষ্টা করলো এবং রোহিত তাদের ফলো করলো তার সাইকেল নিয়ে। They stopped the rickshaw and saved the pumpkin from falling to ground. তারা সাইকেল রিক্সাটাকে দাঁড় করালো এবং তারা পাম্পকিনটাকে মাটিতে পড়া থেকে আটকালো। Then they returned to the home to Dadaji, and Dadaji was very happy, and they go for the contest. And of course, Dadaji won the competition. তারা সাইকেল রিক্সাটাকে দাঁড় করানোর পর পাম্পকিনটা দাদাজির কাছে নিয়ে গেল এবং দাদাজি সেটা দেখে খুবই খুশি হলেন এবং তারা ঠিক টাইমে কন্টেস্টে যোগ দিলেন এবং প্রতি বছর মতন এবছরও দাদাজি কন্টেস্টটা জিতে গেলেন। They told Dadaji the whole story, and that evening Mathru visited Dadaji and felt guilty, and he said that it was for his daughter's marriage that he wanted to make best halwa. After hearing that, Dadaji smiled and gave him the pumpkin. That is the end of the story. We will start the exercises in the next class. Thank you.